Hope everyone's having a great Sunday, and we're here in Charleston, South Carolina, actually just over the bridge in Mount Pleasant, and we just completed a workshop yesterday in Circular Churchyard in Charleston, one of, if not the oldest graveyard in South Carolina. And so we're here doing a podcast, and I'm going to talk about our travels and experiences on the road and what's yet to come. So happy to be here, and thanks for getting this whole podcast set up in this small room in this less than amazing hotel. But
yeah, so for the audience, where exactly are we at the moment, and who do we have with us?
Yeah, so we're in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, just next to Charleston, and we have Alicia Williams here with me in the room, and then remotely in Boston we have Courtney Appel Clark and Will Clark, and they are in Boston on a little getaway from Atlas.
Hey.
How's it going, Courtney?
Good. We're happy to join you today from beautiful Boston. We're celebrating Will's birthday, so we've had a great weekend, and we're excited to hear about your past week on the tour.
Will, happy birthday. That's fantastic.
Woo!
Thank you. I'm really feeling
So how are you two celebrating out there? Is it like a vacation or sightseeing?
Yeah,
You know Boston pretty well,
quick
right?
Weekend getaway. Yesterday we visited the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, which was amazing, and Will's never been. And then we went to the top of the Prudential Tower, so that was a little, I was nervous going up the elevator, but the views were amazing. And yeah, then we had a nice dinner in the North End last night, so we're a little bit of a struggle this morning, but we're happy to be here.
running slow.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're all so happy you're having a good time, and I know everybody misses you, Courtney, out here.
I know, I miss you guys. I'm excited to join back in with you in August.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, John, how are you
Yes.
getting along without your daughter here? I mean, it's a different show now.
Yeah, I mean, the tour goes on, but, she would have liked to come, but there's a lot to do at Atlas, and her brother Aaron would kind of blow a fuse if she was gone much longer. So they're keeping busy there on the home front and holding down the fort. So all good.
So how was the past week?
A lot of events, a lot of ups and downs, and interesting locations. But overall, it was great, and it was a big week. 6 days, 6 events, and today's the only day off. So this journey's not for the faint of heart. And but yeah, I mean, just so much fabric, hard to weave it all together in a short podcast. But we'll do the best we can.
So tell us about the second week of the tour. You were in Highview, West Virginia after I left. So how was that?
Yeah, so you peeled off the day before from Frederick, right after the last podcast. And we actually did that podcast after the event, which is kind of maybe a little more energy. I don't know. First thing in the morning is still a little sleepy and the coffee hasn't hit yet. So a little different energy. But anyway, yeah, so we made it to West Virginia, and we did a great event there just over the line from Winchester, Virginia, real close to, just only about 2 miles into the state, actually. And Moss Rudley hosted that. Second event in a row he was at, and got a great turnout. He had a family connection there through his wife, and really beautiful site, way off the beaten path. And actually the pastor worked with us, and in his working clothes, and he was a great guy, really enthusiastic. So a lot of good energy there. Every event's different,
Amazing.
but every event is productive, and we've been well received everywhere we've gone.
Yeah, West Virginia there, that was just a really, really beautiful place. And then after that, I believe we were in Roanoke, Virginia, correct? And Alicia, you're from Roanoke?
Yes, I was born in Roanoke. Yes, and so is my oldest child, so
big attendance at that event, and especially big media coverage. And African American cemetery that had been very neglected, and they've been working hard to mow the grass and kind of fight back Mother Nature, but it was perfect timing for us to come in and kind of turbocharge their effort. And so we were happy to be part of that process, and also enhance the experience with a granite working demonstration by Mart Clamp, who was very generous to come and spend his day there and even make a marker for free to dedicate to the cemetery. So very cool connections and just good energy all around there in Roanoke.
Yeah, I remember that. What was the history behind that particular cemetery? I think it was encroached upon by the city, by the highways they put in there.
It was a historic African American cemetery. And in the early 60s, with the interstate project across the country, they wanted to build a highway, and the cemetery was in the way. And so they exhumed 933 individuals and placed them all in a mass grave at a different location. But that little section of the cemetery still remains, and for most of my life, and I was born in 1979, I never knew there was a cemetery there until about probably the last 10 years or so, when that Friends group organized and they started cleaning it up. And then one day it's like, wait a second, there's a gravestone in there. And it was just a really neat opportunity to be able to go in there and help with their mission to restore the site.
Yeah, I've been driving by that place on and off for quite a while now, and I was always curious what was in there. And little by little, you could see it was being mowed better, and you could see more of the stones. And then randomly, we got a submission request for that location, and so
we went out there that night, actually.
Yeah,
on the way to dinner.
Made a trip to check it out. And then immediately I ran up the hill from the back, because the entrance from the front, there's a gate and there's no parking really. It's kind of right next to a motel. It's an interesting neighborhood there. Leaves a little left to be desired. But anyway, ran up the hill from the back and right about ended up at the top of the hill next to that fallen Reverend monument. And I said, aha, we're going to raise this monument up. Yeah. And we did.
Yeah, that was so important that you got that one up, and right in the nick of time too that day, right when the sky was opening up with some rain.
That's right. Yeah, it was threatening. There was a chance of rain all day, and then it finally started to pour. It seemed like it was going to be a giant thunderstorm, but you said that on the radar it went around us.
Yes, it was like a sign from above, I think, the way the weather just kind of went around us. I mean, we got a little of the residual effects, but it was storming like crazy on all of the surrounding areas. So it's kind of like a small miracle that we didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were up there on top of that hill as you were restoring that gravestone, and I'm carrying all these tripods, all these metallic items, and there's thunder and lightning, and But you got it done. It started pouring rain, and
Yeah, and then the rain passed. By the time we were breaking down the equipment up there, it was all said and done, and then Mart Clamp was able to sandblast that marker even after that, and a whole bunch of folks stayed till the very end and made friends. And he said he wants to volunteer and come back and help them with the resetting. So it was great collaboration, and I love connecting people that don't know each other and have common causes. So it was awesome.
It really was.
Yeah, that was so cool. And he finished up that monument.
Yeah, that it was like a marker that he created right on the spot in his mobile manufacturing trailer. Pretty cool all around.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It says, Old Lick Cemetery, Roanoke, Virginia, in memory of all those removed and those that remain. It was very beautiful. Very beautiful. Fantastic.
I know, I'm sad I missed that demonstration. That looked really, really amazing. That was so nice of Mart to join.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a really special one.
So Wednesday, you went to Lynchburg, Virginia, not too far from Roanoke, I can imagine. How was Lynchburg?
Yeah, so Lynchburg Old City Cemetery, it's really interesting and also a strong African American connection there. However, that's like a fusion because there was also white sections and a Confederate area, and so it's kind of like a combination of things. And really interesting site. We learned a lot about it when we were there, and it's just. It's a combination of things now. What do they have there?
It's not just a cemetery. It is Lynchburg, Virginia's #1 tourist attraction. They are a museum and an arboretum. They have all sorts of events there throughout the year, and sales, various fundraising activities throughout the year. They're well known for their rose sales, and they do weddings. They have all sorts of adventures at Ghost Walk and at Halloween, and sort of plays representing the residents of the cemetery. It's just a really neat place that they recently got a new director on board, and they're looking for more involvement from the community, and I think the tour really helped spurn some interest locally.
Yeah, they say there's 30 to 50,000 visitors to that location every year, and it's the most popular tourist attraction based on history as well in a city that, is kind of kind of promoting its history, and that's a significant part of its background. And so they said they have almost 20 weddings a year there. So I thought that was quite interesting because, weddings in a cemetery, probably not that common across the country.
Yeah, I've been seeing more of that, on social media.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful site what they've done there, and it actually fell into disrepair and was abandoned in the 60s, and a lady I think in the early 80s came in and started cleaning it up, and has really turned into something beautiful there. And John being there and showing them good techniques for repair and stuff, it's really gotten them excited on the extra improvements that they can make to the place for the community, and just for the family members who are coming to visit their relatives.
That's amazing. How about that horse-drawn hearse? That looked incredible.
Oh, so awesome to be able to see that up close.
Right. So they have two museums there, and one is open, on a regular basis. It's a little gift shop also and things. And, they have some books and some things on display, like historic kind of coffin and some interesting funerary art. And then there's another small museum that normally you can just see through the glass. It's like glass windows, so you can, kind of observe through there. And then they have this sort of tacky thing. You push the button and it tells the story. It reminds me of something at Wally World. And but yeah, so they opened that up for us. So that was really exciting. And we got Jeremy in there with his cameras, and pretty cool.
Yeah. It was really neat. They actually had two hearses in there, antique, one for the poor people, and the fancier one was for the wealthier people. So
yeah, the other one looked just like a wagon.
That was their hurt. That's what she said.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's what she was saying. This was their example for the paupers. It was the word for the time, would have been taken to Potter's Field. And
I got it. So yeah, like so many neighborhoods in America, it fell into disrepair, and especially in cities. And we were talking with the staff there, and they said it turned into a bad neighborhood. It's not a place you wanted to be in the 70s. And so basically they kind of fought nature back and reclaimed it. And so they did what they would call in the field of historic preservation excellent adaptive reuse, because they made it a combination of a arboretum and museum, and promoted it through tourism. And so now it has high visitation. the neighborhood has also, I'm sure, benefited from these improvements. And it was, I didn't feel dangerous when I was there at all. I mean, it seemed like there was good energy and great people. And it has a lot of room for improvements on the monuments, but it's really exciting. They're interested in having me work with them in the future. So we had a discussion about that, and, nothing is etched in stone, excuse the pun, but, the stage is set. So I'm hoping I can, work with them toward furthering the improvements at the site.
Definitely. That's great.
Yeah, so that's, the tour is all about, spreading goodwill and sharing information, and folks are coming to these events from far and wide. I can't remember, but, and the events vary in size, but I try to let people introduce themselves and say where they're from and how they heard about it.
Yeah.
But
we had that guy in Lynchburg from Ohio. He drove from Ohio to come to Lynchburg.
Wow.
Yeah.
right. And a lot of events, people are traveling, staying in hotels the night before because we're not going to be close enough to their location. And so it's exciting to, to be attracting people from so many different regions, and it's growing.
Yeah, John, you have your fan base. One of your biggest fans is Steve. Steve has been to 4 or 5 events on this tour.
How many?
And
How many events?
The two of you work in tandem out there. Anything you got your hands in, he's right behind you, ready to go to help out. He is super helpful, super knowledgeable in it, and he will be part of a lot of the edits.
He's an interesting guy, and very very loyal follower. And I mean, I get some folks like that, and they know how to do this stuff, but they just like to be around it and see new stuff. But I get a lot of comments like, because every event is different, and because we're actually working on real gravestones and monuments, that you never know what you're going to encounter. And so that's it's not like a pre-planned thing, like a lot of shows, it's all rehearsed and it's the same thing every time. And I mean, that's what makes it so interesting. It's like, I don't know what's underground. I'm like, I don't know if this base is 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, if it's in concrete, if there's roots. And so we got to start digging to figure out what we got here. And so yeah, but anyway, Stephen.
He's always ready to help dig, that's for sure.
No, he's one of a kind.
Always.
And so I guess he attended 5 events on the tour. So, that's...
yeah, he's driving, he's getting hotels, he's waking up early, he's ready to help you out. And yeah.
He stays until we're finished packing.
He does. He's the last one there. Steve, we love you.
Yeah, we don't. He could show up at another event still, so we're
that would be great.
Yeah,
he's so helpful.
He might fly in and do the California one. Like, you never know. Like,
Well, you might have other fans that show up too.
There you go.
That's awesome.
You did have a couple of people from other workshops in the past.
Oh yeah, well,
pop up.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and some quite a few people attend a few events. We had a lady in Frederick, and then she also came to Roanoke, and so quite a number. Yeah, and a couple days ago in Augusta, a lady that had attended a previous event of mine in Chattanooga. So I see a lot of that, and people get interested in the subject. They want to learn more.
And Iris, our stone carver from yesterday, had attended your 48 state tour event in 2020.
That's right.
Here, right?
I forgot about that.
A nice full circle moment there for the two of you. How cool for her to be able to do that.
So how have things been going at Atlas, Courtney and Will? How's what's going on over there?
Oh,
Well, wild as always. Never a dull moment there, especially when Courtney was gone. We were really, really feeling the absence.
Yeah.
We kind of we struggled through, but it's good to have her back.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a long time, and the time of year it was, right around Memorial Day. We're always busy. Everyone is wanting to tend to their gravestones and monuments. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
things at
I'm
Atlas are
glad
crazy
she's back
as
on the
always.
home front, and glad you. Happy birthday! I'm glad you guys got a little getaway and attitude adjustment. So ready and raring to go for a new week, and we have some new help at Atlas because to maintain the growth we're experiencing.
Yes, shout out to our wonderful employees. We're so thankful and grateful for them, and we're building a little team, expanding our team at Atlas, so it's exciting. Very
Awesome.
exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, this company is dividing and conquering right now. 48 state tour on one end, and Courtney and Will, they're holding down the fort on the other end.
That's right.
Someone's got to do it.
It's quite impressive.
It's a team effort. So yeah, and the the more that's going on, the more complicated it gets. And my business vision in general is infinite growth, so it's hard to maintain that. And Courtney's on but so far so good. And
after Lynchburg, you were in Greensboro, North Carolina.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Interesting event, and a lot of media coverage again, and some really motivated volunteers there that were, borderline overly enthusiastic, I'd say, but again, well attended and a lot of good energy there. Folks came from far and wide again to attend, and so we thank them for helping promote it and sponsor it and get such a good crowd out, and it was a good event.
Tons of media coverage for that, and a big crowd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we got to do a fractured tablet repair early on because the media had showed up, and it was a good move to jump right into that, and made me think maybe we should do that more and mix it up more, and so I'm always willing to change it up. I think things get stale if you're too consistent. And, every site is different, and that's the thing. And that's also why people come back for more, because we don't know what we're going to have to work on there. And so that, and also we're working around hot sun. So, I mean, if possible, we want to find some shade trees. And, so we're kind of doing a dance to try to do what's best for, everyone there under the circumstances, and it's hard to transition from one area to another. But that place had infinite possibilities. I mean, everywhere you look, there was, a fallen leaning monument. And I mean, it was a big mess. So hats off to the volunteers there. They're not going to run out of work. So they got a long road ahead of them at that one location. And, but it was a great event, and happy to be there.
Awesome. So, and then Friday was Augusta, Georgia. That looked like a great event.
Yeah, it was not the best neighborhood, and a chain link fence around the cemetery with barbed wire on top caught my eye.
Really?
As a very unusual kind of lay of the land. And there was a really nice brick wall, also had barbed wire on it, kind of right adjacent, and that was apparently the white cemetery. And this was pretty rundown and sad.
It was a very sad location.
However, the woman that was facilitating it,
Joyce, her name is Joyce. She was wonderful.
She was full of energy, very enthusiastic, extremely knowledgeable about the history, and really trying to make the site come alive. And so hopefully the episode we make about that will help her mission, because a great person and really interesting history there, but also kind of showing the plight of, so many cities in America that, have had such hard times transitioning from our, even from the days of slavery, but then, with the loss of our manufacturing base in America in so many areas. So, but anyway, it was uplifting for the folks that attended that, and we got a lot done there. So it was a great event.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Joyce. She's a military veteran, volunteer out there, and I guess it just takes people like that to really make a difference
really
in a cemetery.
Absolutely. She is an amazing individual. And on the flip side, I saw no involvement from the city at all, which was very disheartening. We saw a lot of, uneven terrain and even sunken graves. And I mean, just to come in and fill those up with some fill dirt and, topsoil and seed would go a long way to, helping care for the site. So hopefully they can, improve that. But yeah, she was amazing, and the folks that attended were excellent. They came from far and wide also, and that was one of the shortcomings, actually. There was very little local attendance, and we drew people in through Atlas, though, and we got people that came from different towns nearby. Statesboro, Georgia, we got a few, and that woman came from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Well, my favorite part of that event was the way you took that young man, Jeff, under your wing the whole time and had him just basically being your assistant. And the way that kid left with the biggest smile on his face, he just seemed like you really sparked an interest and a desire to do this work in him. It was really, really awesome to see.
Because he showed up in Crocs
Right.
with his chair, and you pulled him up. You said, "Hey, let's get to work. Grab a shovel," and he had a big smile on his face.
I really
after
felt
that.
like I watched a very impactful moment on his life, indelible. It was a really awesome thing to witness.
Yeah, strong 17-year-old kid, real shy, not too talkative, and I was trying to bring him out of his shell, but also, I mean, with that said, a strong young kid, a pair of hands. First of all, we don't get enough young involvement. And so, we did have some youngsters that weren't helping so much, of all ages, that were attending, Moss's family and a few other kids at that event. But it's great to have teenagers that are able-bodied, strong, and yeah, I'm going to put them to work. So it's helping me too, because, hey, I'm like digging every day. And so it was good for everybody. But yeah, he was a great kid, and I think it'll be a memorable thing for him. And I said, hey, you got a bright future in this. There's a lot of need for this, and a lot of the skills are not that complicated. If if he worked with me a few days, he could probably go start resetting a bunch of monuments himself. I mean, so you never know. Maybe our paths will cross again.
Yeah, and you needed that extra help too, because Joyce kept picking out new gravestones that needed fixing and restoration. It was after 3:00. It was late in the day, and then she found another one. And I was like, all right, well, I got to new batteries, new media cards for the cameras. But that ended up being pretty cool, that last gravestone. And how come?
Yeah. We never make it easy for Jeremy because, a half a terabyte of data a day or whatever he's collecting, it's not quite enough. So we got to extend the events a little. And but yeah, there was this sunken tablet that you could only read some of it, and it was like pretty much straight up and down. It was a small marble tablet, but it was unusual, and it was right next to the stone we were working on. And that happens a lot of times when you're working next to something, and sometime I'll be like, hey, I do this extra one over here next to it because, like it catches your eye. You're right next to it. Well, so this was at the very end, and it's like, why the heck is this thing so low to the ground anyway? And let me just, put a shovel in the ground next to it and see. My guess was that it was broken already, as I would say previously broken, reset, lowered, and it was going to be like a half a stone. And so I started digging, and it just kept going and going and going. And so then, fortunately, I had the tripod right next to me. It was on the ground, but we had everything out. So I just reset it up, and then I pulled the thing straight out of the ground. Of course, the kid Jeff was running the chain hoist, and we pulled that thing right out, and it kept going. So ultimately, we reset it about 18 inches higher than it had been. And we also spun it around because Miss Joyce said that that's the way it should be going. So that was a fun end to the day for sure.
So fantastic, and those two that you restored at the end of the day, they're right next to each other. and it just made for this really beautiful setting. It was really nice.
Right. So, I mean, at every event, we leave something behind. And obviously, we can't restore the whole cemetery, but we can help encourage and empower and, kind of make examples to follow. And, but the main thing is the educational, focus to, provide practical hands-on skills so they themselves can do the work themselves. And that's the whole goal.
Hey, if Joyce had it her way, you'd still be there working.
That's right. So
That's awesome. So to wrap up week 2, you were in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday.
Yes.
And joined by Iris, a new stone carver, new generation, and that event looked amazing.
absolutely.
Iris was really, I think, a little caught off guard by the cameras maybe at first,
Yes.
but she was such a pleasure and really talented.
Yeah, a recent graduate of the American Arts Building School, and that college, I should say, that was the original connection I had to that site through the former stone carving professor, teacher, and also former Dean Simeon Warren. And we had worked together at Circular Churchyard and actually did a 3-day workshop that Moss Rudley helped me with. We did that together back before COVID. And so it was great to go back there. And yeah, I had been there on the first 48 state tour. Actually, we were there and everyone was wearing masks. And this time there was no mask to be seen. So that was a great transformation. But yeah, Iris was wonderful. And, it's exciting to see young artisans who are, just getting into this and enthusiastic about the future. And really exciting that she said she has work for about 2 years lined up. And she's helping doing the carving on a new building being built, so that a new building is having ornamental carving work. And they're contracting her to be doing that work, and there's some of it. And so that's really awesome. I mean, to be getting out of college 1 year and to have work like that, in front of you is amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. That's awesome.
So this particular cemetery in Charleston, and it has a lot of history, correct? Is it one of the first cemeteries on the East Coast?
I mean, they say it's the oldest in South Carolina, and it's very similar to the Boston graveyards, actually, and that's not a coincidence because many of the oldest slate stones there actually were carved by Boston carvers, and there was a connection there by ship. And another thing, in early America, significant ports existed in Charleston and Boston and Newport. And so that these areas were all connected by ship. And so it's amazing how even in those early times, and we can only imagine how hard it was to do business. I mean, now we can't live without email and without, websites, let alone phones. But I mean, they were doing commerce, back, when they didn't have anything. I mean, they had to just wait for someone to deliver a handwritten letter, by a ship. I mean, so pretty amazing that society was able to move forward and that slow a pace. But can you talk about some of the carving you found? We found signed stones. Alicia was doing some investigation and research and found some signed gravestones that were amazing in the details of the carving. And then there's connections with like Newport, Rhode Island and Boston.
Oh, it's a lot of information that I looked up in a really short period of time, but there's a whole lot of information out there about it. Just found hidden signatures is what I had noticed from one particular Boston carver, Henry, I believe the last name was Emmis. I'm not sure how to say that, but I found 3 stones with his signature in it, and they all were placed in a different location, one on the top edge of the stone, and another, it was so faint, it was just
Yes.
so barely there. The only reason that I found it is because the lighting was just right, and I was photographing this one spot on the stone and saw it scratched in there. But it's
Yes.
just really neat because the signature was how they advertised their work also.
Right.
And to see that, it's really neat, really neat.
Yeah. And so everyone is always looking for signed stones, especially the hand-carved colonial era stones, gravestones, grave markers. And because then you have a definitive attribution of actually whose hand, whose shop this came from. And so a lot of the stones are not signed. And then the other thing is that they had apprentices and the shops that were active in these eras, and so you're never sure exactly who was creating these. And they also copied each other's styles. And sometimes there's like two different rivaling carvers in some periods of time, and only a real expert could even tell the differences. And there might be subtle differences. But when they're actually signed, then you can tell, for sure they put their name on this thing. And, like they say, it's the real John Hancock on there. So.
Yes. And the slate stones, 1740s, most of them, with these beautiful raised portraits.
Amazing.
Absolutely indescribable. They're not the prettiest portraits, of course, and a lot of them have been defaced or vandalized in some way, but
yes.
They're just the slate. It's so pure and unblemished. You can see the chisel marks and the tiny scratches.
Right.
Even the little tiny engraving on a book being held by the guy in the portrait.
You got to show you those photos that she has captured some amazing photos. And it has a lot to do with the lighting. And so as we were there throughout the day, she went back when the lighting changed to capture the images, in better lighting. And because sometimes the sun will wash out everything. And if the sun is like behind the stone or directly in front of it, it's not going to work out well. But if it's at a raking angle, especially certain time of day, sometimes you could also help create those conditions, by putting an umbrella or tent above it and even reflecting the light in. But anyway, it's amazing that the slate holds up so well. And, it was impossible for them to know back then when the marble started to become really popular in the 1800s that it wouldn't do well in the long run, because the marble was so strikingly beautiful when it was first carved and installed. However, the slate has endured a lot better in many or most situations, especially with the Boston slate. So that was really exciting.
Yes, it's one of my favorite places. You took me there 3 years ago. I've been dying to go back since, and now I'm happy again to get to go back there.
And for everybody out there, if you get a chance to go, it's Circular Congregational Church Cemetery, or graveyard in Charleston, South Carolina. And it is very cinematic. I think they also film movies there.
Oh, yeah. They just made some TV show or something, right?
I think that big tree in the back, it's like the largest live oak in South Carolina or Charleston. Wow. I forget what they said, but yeah, they use it as scenery for filming a lot of different things, I think.
Awesome.
I think they mentioned that they do have issues with weather. It's pretty low-lying elevation. How does that affect the gravestones? Say if a storm comes in and there's a hurricane.
I mean, certainly severe weather has had impacts in many different regions. That soil there is very sandy, and so even with a high water table, you tend to have really good percolation. So I'm not seeing long-term effects for the most part in that specific location, at least not how it is now. I think they said that there was some major inundation, like some weather event where water actually made it, high water table actually up in there. And certainly that, flooding and disasters like that will have an impact on everything. But, and also the slate itself, the oldest gravestones there, they're not really that affected by the water. So it's just the stone itself is a different composition, and it just is much more durable. It's interesting because you can carve it beautifully with just a hand chisel, but then the scribe lines that they put in the stones when they were first making them to carve them are still visible. So in other words, like a lined piece of paper a child will use in school when they're young, they were doing that to the stones before they carved it, but they probably, I'm sure, never thought those lines would still exist hundreds of years later. And so, I mean, these faint little lines, but if you see it in the right lighting, they're still there. And so
And you said that's how you could tell a beginner carver was how deep those scribe lines
They
are.
scribed them really deeply. They were just like running that chisel through there on a straight edge, and yeah, there's these deep lines in there, and but yeah, that's it's pretty wild. So we got a whole busy week coming up. And we got some events that hopefully we can get good turnouts. I see some correspondence online that they want to help promote, like the event in Santa Fe coming up. And there's going to be some interesting locations. We're going to continue to try to represent all the different kind of nationalities, religions, regions, and so. You want to mention any of that, Courtney?
So tomorrow is Apalachicola, Florida. How far is the drive there?
We're heading down to Florida, and I'll also just interject, we're basically starting to head west now. So we've mostly been heading south, and I mean, that was the whole point. I mean, I was balancing everything when we planned this tour and made a decision to start the day after Memorial Day because of it's kind of like the unofficial summer and, kind of walking a tightrope between, kids getting out of college and coming up with a sweet spot, the right time of year to do this. Last year I did regional tours for like 30 days in the summer, and it was just too hot. Okay, so I'm not going to do that again. But anyway, so yeah, Apalachicola is a cool place and really interesting. And then we head west from there. What's next?
Yep, so tomorrow we're at Chestnut Street Cemetery in Apalachicola, Florida. After that, we're at Greenwood Cemetery in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yeah, so Apalachicola, I'll just interject, is an amazing site because I was there last year, and I'm really disappointed. I wanted to go further into Florida, but the thing is, we couldn't stay on the road for 4 months, so I had to make hard decisions, and we had an option to go down to Tampa, and it was a really interesting site that was very early, but it's just I'm balancing the distances and from one day to the next day and trying to eliminate extra travel days, or it would have taken another month.
Oh, that's too bad. Tampa, St. Petersburg area is very cool. I've done a lot of work down there. But hey, you get what you can get, and this 48-state tour is a sprint and a marathon.
That's right. And Apalachicola is really cool, and it's down right by the water, and some of the most beautiful monuments in some of the best condition I've ever seen in the South. And it's a much bigger site than Charleston Circular Churchyard, and there's a great need for us to help it out. And so then after that, we have another travel day because the distances, and we're going to be back in Tuscaloosa.
And that's on June 12th, correct? June 12th, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Wednesday. Yep.
So Alicia has a history in Alabama, but she used to live there, and
I left in Christmas 2010 and haven't been back to Alabama since.
So it's a homecoming of sorts.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Are you going to slip right back into that accent?
Oh, I've never lost the accent, but it just got a little stronger down there. I picked up a little bit of a different dialect. Roll Tide is basically the big change you get when you move to Alabama. So
That's awesome. So then after that, we're at Hillcrest Cemetery in Holly Springs, Mississippi.
And so, yeah, that's an amazing site. And there's some incredible carving there also. And it's just on the edge of Mississippi. And I mean, that's one thing about the tour too. I mean, I'd like to go right into the heart of every state. I'd like to do 2 events in every state, but that's going to be the TV show. So, I mean, this is just a teaser. And so, I mean, I'll, if we get sponsorship behind this, I'll just keep traveling around all the time. Happy to do it. But, Atlas is sponsoring most of this. And I promised Courtney that we're not going to do this again like this because it's how are you coming on the pages for how far along are you
So, yeah, I'm nearing completion on the event pages. I'm getting, I'm lucky if I get 2 to 3 done a day at this point. But I'm getting there.
So, so each event has a separate page that Courtney had to create on the website and then on Facebook and then to share them and then to go back and forth with the folks that are organizing it and try to get them to help promote it. And so Courtney had to be doing all this on top of an incredible amount of different responsibilities running Atlas. And so basically she already had too much work until I threw all this at her. And so, she was on the verge of, of blowing a fuse or, tripping a main circuit breaker. So, it's...
And then we asked her to wake up early, both her and Will here, to do a podcast on their vacation day
Hey,
for his birthday.
We're happy
hey, happy
to be
birthday,
here.
Will. Yeah, wake up early and let's do a podcast.
Woo!
I mean, there's no rest for the weary here. And so, so we're blessed to have Courtney, take all this on, but I'm going to hold true to my promise, unless there's a different dynamic occurring, we're not doing this again in this manifestation because it's a little too much to maintain. Courtney's like, this is a full-time job. I'd be happy to just do this and just do social media, but then she has to answer the phone and, reorder products and do damage control when, UPS or USPS is like smashing boxes and destroying packages and, just all the usual stuff of running a business.
Hey, you all are entrepreneurs. It's a family-run business.
That's right.
And this is what it takes. You're the fastest growing company in the U.S., it seems like.
Well, there's definitely a lot of growth there. So, excited for what the future holds because so many products are going to be coming out and that I have invented already and working with other collaborators to, help evolve and develop the field, not limited to just gravestone preservation, conservation, but also masonry restoration and other related fields. So, my goal is to have enough time and funding to just work on inventing things and coming up with new products. So that's also just down the road.
And real quick, so the schedule, June 14th, it's Memphis, Tennessee, and then June 15th, it's Little Rock, Arkansas, followed by June 17th in Louisiana. And it's going to be a full week.
I mean, every week's a full week. So we're actually, and looking at the numbers, we did 11 events now. And so, we can do the math pretty quickly. So we're a fifth of the way through.
Wow.
Of events, but not of the tour, because as we get into the bigger parts of America, there's more travel days. But at least travel days, you're not having to be somewhere at a certain time and on camera. But, the country, it's a big country, the United States, a beautiful country, the landscape, the people. But we're heading out toward the areas that are more open and less densely populated. And so we're going to have more travel days at some points to get from one location to another because it's just things are too far apart. And then we're going to take July 4th off. And
we definitely have a full schedule ahead of us. Maybe a quick shout out to your sponsors.
Sure. We don't know the exact math, but we're covering 90+%. And I will say also just briefly that we do have a donate button, which I got to start mentioning. And I did see someone donated recently.
Was it Steve?
We have it might have been. No, it was someone I've never heard of from Nebraska, actually. And I should start mentioning that. We did add that donate button on the 48 State Tour website. We have some generous sponsors, especially the D2 company and Ted Kinnery, who's been very generous. He's helped us on past tours. And, D2 is the most popular cleaner for historic gravestones and masonry also. And I don't know if you have a list in front of you. Can you pull that up, Courtney?
Yep, so we, as always, thank our generous sponsors for helping make this happen. So, as John mentioned, D2 Biological Solution. We have Marshalltown, Wallace Crane, Magnolia Brush, Bond Tool, Wayha and 10X, Picard Tools, Graffiti Solutions, IK Sprayers, All Material Handling, Wolverine Tools, Earth Edge, Uline, and Roventour Monument Accessories. So thank you so much. We're so happy to be doing this tour, and I'm really excited for your week ahead. I'm really sad I'm not with you guys, but I feel like I'm there getting all the pictures and the updates and spreading all the good stuff going on.
Absolutely. And we appreciate everything you're doing remotely. Excuse me. And we're excited for when you can kind of join back in for the race to the finish on the home stretch. And, we're negotiating back and forth to see when she'll get, a hall pass and work release papers so she can come out on the road again. And but definitely the last week or so, Courtney will be back on board. And so that'll be a really exciting kind of race to the finish line.
Yes, I know. I told Aaron, I was like, maybe the last 2 weeks I can meet back up with them. And he said, we'll see. So.
Yeah, Aaron's like, we'll think about it. Aaron's like the boy. Aaron's like the very calm, stable voice of reason, and really blessed to have him, him and Aaron and Courtney really at the helm, steering the Atlas ship and, in mission control there. And they work together. And of course, Will also, but Aaron and Courtney are really, front row and center. And it's funny, Aaron is an accountant and he just acts exactly like an accountant. So he's always very cautious, very calm. And, he doesn't get too flustered about anything.
He's the voice of reason. You need a good balance there.
Exactly. So it's always a balance, counterbalance, and so that's why we're so blessed, and all of them work so well together. And I'm also a shout out to Joshua. Josh, as everyone knows him, my other son, who's
where's Josh?
Yeah, he's a little mysterious, but Atlas would not run well without him doing a lot of other stuff behind the scenes that are not known or appreciated, and then we would be a big mess if Will didn't organize everything and keep track of it. And Will is amazing with the customers, and the showroom has become his home base. And so everyone works together. It's a team effort, and it makes everything possible.
It's such a special company that you created, because a lot of these companies, they're generational. A lot of families inherit something that a grandfather, grandmother created in the past. But you did this differently. It's super unique. You built this from the ground up.
Yes.
In 2016, it officially became a company. And then I think from what you told me, the children are part owners.
Yeah, I made all three of them part owners from when I founded it, because I wanted their future to be have that potential. And so it wasn't incumbent upon them to also work there and run it forever. And of course, ownership of something that's unsuccessful means little. But as the company has grown and started to increase, and gain market share in certain fields, it's starting to have, value. But anyway, I created it with that mindset. And then of course, Courtney was, blessed to meet Will, and they got married last year, and now, the family has grown. And so the four of them, all in their 30s, young, smart, healthy, run the business together. And that's really an amazing thing too, because there's no one boss there. okay? And I'm not like micromanaging them. So they basically are self-managing. So they have to like work stuff out. And, from time to time stuff occurs and it's not always, all hunky-dory, but they figure it out. And, we're blessed they can all work together and do what's best for everybody and come up with a balance. So I'm, super blessed to have that happening. And, I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for them. So it's a group effort here.
It really is the American dream. And the company, Atlas Preservation, what you created is to be respected and admired.
Thank you.
Again, from the ground up, you built this company.
Yep.
And I love seeing how this tour is unfolding and how many people are coming out to see the history, to preserve, restore gravestones, and to be part of this much bigger community as it grows.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Jeremy Lozelle, for, being willing to take on this kind of treacherous, somewhat insane journey that
Crazy.
Yeah, we have a 7.5, 8-hour drive. As soon as I call cut on this podcast and pack everything up, then it's a 7.5, 8-hour drive to Florida. And then we start tomorrow at, I'm up at 5:30 a.m. ready to roll.
Well, but the silver lining is then there's a travel day the day after, actually, and it's not a crazy distance.
Oh, there'll be podcasts I listen to, maybe this one,
So, but so we just, excuse me, we have the travel today and then one event, but then another travel day. So it's kind of it opens up. Whereas this last week we had it stacked up 6 days, and so and you got to remember, I didn't have to deal with all this stuff, and I didn't do any photography, and of course I had an unwrapped vehicle, unmarked. I'm just me rogue on the road, but my original vision was 48 events in 48 days, and I still haven't given up on that. So I'm waiting for the sponsorship to come along and to them to facilitate and support me at each location. And I'm good to go on the 48. So I'm not I don't give up easy. As far as my durability, I can handle the 48.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. We've seen how you work. You have a unlimited amount of energy.
Every day Jeremy was asking me how you're holding up, and then he stopped. Eventually he stopped because I turned it around a few days ago and I'm worried about how you're holding up.
And then
after that he stopped asking me.
I promised him, I said, as long as you keep your energy level where it's at now, I will match that the entire tour. Compared to any other show, any other talent I've worked with, John, you have more energy than anybody I've ever worked with before. So I don't doubt it one bit that you could do 48 states, 48 events, in 48 days. But I'm glad you're spreading this one out over 3 months.
We got to make it 50-50, and then we got to hop on the plane and make it to
Alaska would be awesome. But yeah, there's some logistical challenges.
Yeah,
I think.
it would be hard to get to. Certainly, it would be hard to drive to Hawaii. But that's.
Hey, if you do Hawaii, though, I think we need to build into the schedule a couple more days off. If we go all the way out to Hawaii,
I totally
knowing you,
agree.
You'll be like, all right, get on the plane. Now we're going to Alaska.
Exactly.
Well, I wish you safe travels for the upcoming week. I'm excited to hear about all of the amazing events and repairs that will be taking place, and I hope everyone has a good week ahead.
Sounds good. Thanks. We hope you have a good week at Atlas.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Will.
Woo!
Yeah, happy birthday. Did you get some cake? Did you get cake and a candle?
Yes, we got some desserts
Good.
from the
It's
North
important to make a
End.
wish on your birthday.
But we forgot utensils, so
Yeah, we ate it with our hands.
It was a struggle.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
That's like at the wedding when you feed them the cake without the utensils. So
Yeah.
what's your favorite kind of cake, Will?
I gotta say honestly, and I have no shame in this answer, it's definitely ice cream cake.
Ice cream cake.
Nice.
Okay.
There you go.
It is good. It's good stuff.
It just never goes out of style. And I mean, having a birthday in June, I mean, it's always hot, or at least, used to be, but I mean, yeah, no, it was the best one. I guess the second would be like a chocolate ganache.
Yum.
Okay, thanks for coming on and joining us remotely. And I'll just say, stay tuned, everyone, and thanks for all the social media you're doing. People are giving us input on that all the time. Keep it up. And everyone's saying they're seeing stuff on YouTube. So I just create it. I don't see it. I don't edit it. So I don't really know what's out there, but I keep getting good feedback all the time. And I'm just to say, like, come to the events in your state. You know, we have 45 more events to go, I think. And so we're going to be basically all over America, except for these, number of states we've been in. We're looping all over. So basically we're heading west now through the Southwest, out to the West Coast, then weaving back through the whole country. Lots of exciting locations and events, on the tour, and every location and event will be different. So stay tuned and, follow us and come to more events.
48statetour.com.